First of all, I would like to thank Stephen and Tom for bringing me here. It's an honor to be here at the Wireless Field Day. And I would also like to thank all the delegates because you're kind welcome and you really make me feel at home here. So just to say a few words about me, I'm a telecommunication engineer. I received my degree in 2006. And since then, I've been working between both worlds, the academic and the professional one. I have been with Plan Ceibal since 2007. I'm mostly there doing professional service for Wi-Fi deployment. And I've also worked in the academia. In the past, mostly the research was concerned about signal processing and image processing specifically. But now I switch into wireless also in my research. The Plan Ceibal support me to do that. And since a couple of years, I have a grant from the National Agency of Research and Innovation in Uruguay to finish my PhD. I hope to do that the next year. So just to say a few words about our country, I come from Uruguay, a small country in South America, which is just between Argentina and Brazil. We are the smallest one with only 3,300,000 people. And the GDP per capita, this is an estimation of 2012, but it's at the top of the list in Latin America. You know, you have different situations in Latin America. We are in the top of the list country there. And we have a long tradition of public education. In primary schools, more than 80% of the students go to public education. The situation is a little bit different in high school, but we still have a lot of students in public education. My presentation will be half the history and lots of things that Plan Ceibal is doing, and the other half I will concentrate on the specific Wi-Fi challenge there and the deployment we have done and that sort of things. So to say a few words about the origin of the plan, it wasn't at the beginning an educational plan. It was more like a social inclusion plan. The goal was to give every child in the schools a laptop, and they should have also internet access there. This idea came from the one from Nicolás Negroponte from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology about getting a cheap laptop to give in some countries. But in fact, for Plan Ceibal, it is just an adaptation of the idea to our reality. So we are not like partners from OLPC, from One Laptop Per Child, but they are just a provider of laptops for us. Well, the law is from 2006. In fact, it was a decree that determined that the Plan Ceibal should be done. And as I said, at the beginning, it was just to give a laptop to every child and give them also internet access at the schools. There was an interesting organization design at the beginning because the goal was not, the educational system wasn't able to do that sort of things. They didn't have the IT staff and that sort of thing. So the project started with a technical agency of the government, and Plan Ceibal people just started working like a startup company there. And we are now an independent company. At the beginning, we were just, I don't know, at the first time 20 people, then 50 people. Today, we are more than 250 people. And another interesting thing, it was the separation of politics and the definition of the goals, as I said, the laptop, internet, from the implementation. There was a good separation about what has to be done and how it was going to be done. It was fine because, you know, most of the times you have mixes from political people with implementation people, and it's kind of difficult to advance with the project in that kind of situations. Today we have more than 300,000 users between students, between teachers. The plan extended to secondary schools, so it's quite a large number. And the most important impact up to date is the social one, about the access to computers and to internet access. Here you have a graph about the access to computers, differentiating the different social classes with the income. And the first deployment was done between 2007 and 2010. So the real impact there, it was not about education. It was more just about technology and give them all the same opportunities. This is our map. Today we have 98% of the school covered, but we have, I don't know, but like 99.99% of the students, because the schools that are missing there have very few students. We have a real heterogeneous scenario in the country about schools. We have large schools with more than 500 students, but we have many others in rural areas with less than 50, less than 20 students. So it's a real different situation all around the country. Looking at secondary schools, the plan now, it's just for middle school, so it's just the first 3 years of secondary school. In Uruguay, we have 6 years of primary and 6 years of secondary, but it's divided. 3 is the first, and then another 3. And there are also some high schools, technical high schools, that are covered by the plan. Here at the bottom, we have Montevideo, which is the capital city, and half of the population lives there. So it's like a divided country between capital city and the rest of the country. And most of the cities all around the country only reach, the largest one reaches 100,000 people. So it's quite a different situation at capital city and all around the country.
What does the 435 refer to? That's the number of schools?
That's the number, yes, of middle and high schools covered by
99% is
by the plan. Yes, it's like the same.
Percentage of students?
99% is the percentage of schools covered right now. And this is also the optical fiber coverage all around the country. I will be talking some more about the ISP we have in the country and that sort of thing later. But here you have the idea where's the optical fiber access in the country. Most of it is concentrated in capital city, but also here are the beaches of the country. The seaside resorts, most important ones are here. And we have an important city there. And there are also important cities here because it's where we have the best livestock and agriculture production of the country. You have Argentina here. Here it's Buenos Aires, just in front of Colonia, which is this city here. And over there is Brazil. We're hoping to reach more and more schools. We depend a lot of the ISP deployment to have better access at the schools. And I will be talking about other things that we have done after the deployment of just the infrastructure, which are actually a lot of platforms and services that the students and the teachers have available to use the infrastructure, because it's really important which services you can offer. So the first one is called CREA. It's like create in English, and it's a content management platform. The teachers can create activities there, and the students can get them, and that sort of things. There are a lot of numbers here. It's not quite important, but it has a lot of success between the teachers. You know, there was a lot of work involving the teachers, the community, the parents. It's not only about the equipment and the technological deployment. Here are a lot of numbers about the usage of that sort of things. An important platform that started last year, it's about mathematics. The goal now is to try new tools that can help to personalize the education. You know, one of the problems of typical education is that you have all your classroom, and the teacher needs that the classroom advance at the same time. All the students have to advance at the same time, and that doesn't happen. So it's quite good, this kind of tools that allow the student to make an exercise. If he does it right, it gets a more difficult one. If he does it wrong, it gets less difficult one. So it's been really important, the usage of it.
Is this a platform you developed yourself to the organization, or
No. This is a platform we just acquired from
is
some.
anything based on Khan Academy or anything that kind of methodology?
What, sorry?
Is it based on anything on the Khan Academy has developed?
No, we have other things about Khan Academy. I just tell you right now. With all that kind of stuff, we have providers, but we also personalize typically the solution for our needs.
Yeah, cool.
That's all about numbers of usage and that sort of things. There are also competitions that motivate the students to use this kind of tools. There's another important thing. We made an arrangement with the editorials to have ebooks at the school servers. So we have like e-library at each school. And it was very interesting because it's pretty expensive to buy the books for each school. So this is everything legal. There's no like...
Have you ever heard of an organization called Libraries Without Borders?
Sorry, I didn't hear
An
it.
organization based in France called Libraries Without Borders.
No, I've never heard about
I'll
it.
put you in contact with them. They do basically this kind of stuff. This is probably digital books to schools and similar projects all over the world free of charge. So
Okay, you can give it.
I'll give you the introduction. Yeah.
Yes. Because I actually don't work with this kind of stuff. I'm more like with the problem. There are other people that take care of these kind of things. Online evaluation is another important thing. You know, the infrastructure gives you the opportunity to very quickly have a result about the advance of the students in every area and that sort of things. And that's something that it's been done every year just to get the impact. Now, yes, talking about the educational results. And every year we have more students performing this kind of tests. Well, here we reach Khan Academy. There are a lot of things that Ceibal itself and many others, content developers and people that work with Ceibal have done with the project. For example, Khan Academy, as you just told, it's I don't know if all of you know Khan Academy. It's a guy that started to do videos explaining things like you are explaining it to just a kid. You can understand many things, very complex ones, because they are very good explained there. And what we have done is to translate a lot of videos to Spanish just to make them available for the students of Plan Ceibal. It's actually a website from ourselves. I can give you, but it's like can.plan.ceibal.edu. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of content there. And there are also many video games developed for Plan Ceibal. It's very interesting because the industry of video game developing in Uruguay has been growing a lot. In part of it, it's because also of Plan Ceibal. They are developing video games for everywhere in the world. There are some apps very popular for mobile stuff and that sort of thing. But Ceibal helped a lot in that also. Well, another things that have been done, there are robotic kits that are delivered, that are provided for students. They are mostly like Lego. And you have tools with the laptop to program the robots and do very interesting stuff with that. Scratch it's an interesting software to learn programming for the kids. And last year we started also with the MOOC experiences. It was a programming course there, the first one. Well, and this is one of the largest projects from the last years. After the large deployment of Wi-Fi, we started in 2011 this idea of universalizing the English teaching at primary schools. So the goal there was to reach every school with an English teacher. We didn't have many teachers to do that in the country, and it was very difficult to get them to go to Uruguay to do that. So the idea was to start teaching English by video conference. And in fact, there was an international call to institutions that do that. The one that won the project is the British Council from the UK. They are a very traditional institution in the UK. I think the oldest one teaching English in many other countries. And the solution is the students have their own teacher who maybe knows some English, but he's not able to teach it. And the students have the remote class with a TV and a video conference solution. The teacher is in the other side of the world, maybe. We have teaching points in Uruguay, but we also have teaching points in Argentina, in Mexico, and in the Philippines. So it's a very large solution. And the idea, as I said, is to universalize the English teaching. These are the equipment that are already deployed in the country. This solution is only deployed where we have optical fiber access, so we depend on that. And we are reaching more and more schools every year. Just to give you some numbers about the project. Here the numbers are in Uruguayan money. This is around $100 per student per year. Yes, this number over here. And the budget, in fact, is less than 5% of the budget of education, and less than, as it says there, 0.12% of the GDP of the country. So it's really a little budget if you compare with the one involved by teachers and that sort of thing. If you divide the cost by areas, most of it's taken by laptops. Yeah, so the most expensive thing for us is to buy the laptops. Well, we also have done some consultancy service because for many other countries it was interesting the experience. It was the first one at a national scale. So we have done some consultancies in Karabakh. This is in Armenia. And the other ones are all of them in South America with Ecuador, Colombia, Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil. So in summary, for this first part of the presentation, Plan Ceibal, it was more like a transformation of privilege into rights. Yes, it was like a social inclusion program. And now we are working more in the personalization of the education, with platforms, with content available all the time, everywhere. So the teacher role, it's changing. And the learning for each student, it's being more individually. So it's quite interesting, the change the typical education is having with that kind of stuff. I will just show a video before the second part of the presentation.
Si querés, sacas una foto de internet, una foto tuya y vas con las dos, vas a Toys y después la vas cambiando.
Eso es una cosa muy grande que, como te digo, revolucionó todo porque fue una manera diferente de ver las cosas y de buscar es mucho más fácil de todo.
Porque acá tiene toda la cámara. Entonces tú te miras a la computadora y vas a ver un redondel que te va a decir que hagas clic ahí.
Ceibal nos dio la posibilidad de tener una computadora en cada casa, cada niño.
Cuando descubrieron aquel botoncito que prendía la ceibalita, les abría un mundo nuevo, totalmente nuevo.
Hace mucho que usamos la ceibalita y la usamos para sacar fotos o para escribir su nombre o para dibujar.
Es que esto es una puerta a democratizar la enseñanza, a que todos los individuos tenemos el mismo derecho a educarnos.
Yo, que soy una madre de 7 hijos, no puedo pagarle un curso de computación, pero gracias a todo esto, ellos hoy en día todos saben computadora, manejar la computadora.
Entonces esto ayuda a que estos niños, no importa de qué nivel social vengan, no importa cuánto su papá pueda o no pueda darles, todos están igualados.
Que lo deja todo igual. Es otra cosa importantísima, ¿viste? No es que fulano tenga más dinero que fulano, que los padres tengan mejor trabajo, son todos iguales.
Como seres humanos, no sé, se nos mejora hasta la calidad de vida también al acceder a más conocimientos.
Y en los niños cambió todo, la actitud, ¿verdad? El hecho de venir con alegría todos los días, de que la Ceibal se convirtió en una herramienta más. Yo creo que en este momento es una herramienta fundamental.
Nos divertimos aprendiendo y no es que aprende uno solo, aprenden todos.
Porque hay muchas cosas para hacer y aprender.
Somos grandes y por eso enseñamos.
Uruguay was the first country to give every child in primary school a laptop. It's the first country in the world to try to teach children in primary schools at a distance using remote teachers. So it's at the forefront of experimentation and innovation.
Yo estoy orgullosa de ser uruguaya y de que me pregunten dónde vivo. Bueno, vivo en Uruguay, en el país donde todos los niños de las escuelas públicas tienen una computadora, que se la llevan a la casa, que es de ellos, que van a salir de la escuela y va a seguir siendo de ellos.
Yo quiero ser navegante por el cielo austral, yo quiero ser navegante por el cielo austral, sin salir de mi remanso a la sombra del Ceibal.
Well, are there any questions? If not, I just continue with the other part of my presentation.
Was there much politics in getting the plan implemented? Because I can see that in a lot of other countries, and from what I've seen, there has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first time it was a challenge because, there's one party in the government and the others that are not in the government at that time may, I don't know, to be against these kind of things. But I think with with time they accepted, and all the parties are with Plan Ceibal. It's not something that some political party if we did and the other
both
no.
supported
So,
it, but obviously always going to have different opinions on which way the program should go, but there was still support for the program.
no, I think actually as the project goes well and that sort of thing, that convinces everyone that it's right. And at the beginning it was difficult because you have to decide to put the money in the infrastructure and laptops and that sort of things, and maybe you have also to fix a building or do that. But then with time they understand. The typical question was, you are a parent, you have kids, do you buy a computer to your kids? And the obvious answer was yes. So if there are some parents that can afford it, why not to give them one?
And what is the penetration of internet access for people at home? Obviously it's going to vary significantly, but...
It's quite high. The country, it's very small. We have like 600 kilometers from one end to the other, and we are a very flat country. The highest point is like 500 meters. So I will be talking just about the ISP there and their service, but it's quite high. We have now a really wide network with optical fiber access. Many towns and cities in the country have optical fiber access, so it's just a matter of time that optical fiber reaches everywhere. The problem is that the ISP will never give you optical fiber in the middle of nowhere. So that are the kind of area that are the most difficult one for us, because we have to reach there with point-to-point links or satellite connections. So.
Right.
Do you see the infrastructure improvements impacting other areas of the country, like manufacturing or industry or anything along those lines? Obviously, if you're bringing internet access from an education perspective, that infrastructure can also support manufacturing industries, things along those lines. Does it have a ripple effect across the country?
I think, as I said before, for example, in the video game development industry, in that kind of things, we have seen many companies starting and working for any other parts in the world. Because, the problem is in Uruguay is the scale. You don't have a market so it's a nice place to start with something, to try it. We have a lot of laptops now, so they can start there, and then develop products to every other place. But what we have seen, for example, yesterday I was talking with someone and I told him we have found, because in fact today the educational measurements don't show many improvements. So the improvement, as I said, is more like a social inclusion one. Everyone has access and that sort of things. But there are some interesting cases. For example, last week we have a guy it's a young guy, 14 years old, who won a Google contest. There were only 20 guys that won it, and many of them were from the United States, other from India, and there was one from Uruguay. And he received the laptop 3 years ago. He never used one before. And that kind of things are happening now.
What year did the program start? I think I missed.
It's 2007.
Okay. So what
sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Yes, thank you. What sets it apart from other countries that have a similar, I guess, one laptop per child or one-to-one? Obviously, other countries have done this since 2007, and perhaps some had started around that time as well. So, do you see? You mentioned that you've helped other countries.
Yes, but typically our help was for local governments of that kind of stuff, and it was more like consultancy service. So it was just like they want to do it. And they talk with us just to get an idea of the whole picture of the logistics and that kind of how how do we have done many things? You know, you have to work with the community, work with the provider. And the situation is really different in every country, even with the ISPs. So
some parts of your plan may adopt, particularly in South America, may apply, but other parts are going to be.
But they also want to know which equipments are using, which laptop, which access point. So it's not all about the technical equipment. You know, you have to work a lot with the teachers, with the community, and that sort of thing. And I know that there have been experiences in other places that have the problems you mentioned about politics. So it's not quite easy to implement something like this.
Now, in the schools and also in the point-to-point links, is there any, prevalent wireless vendors that you're aware of? Anybody's gear gets used more often than anybody else?
Of the one we use, you say?
Yeah, the actual wireless infrastructure, or the, like Cisco or whoever. Do you know anything about whose equipment is in use?
You know from us?
Yeah.
Maybe I can advance with the presentation because I will talk about it later, about all the access points and that sort of thing. So, just to start with, I have a brief introduction to the end user device. As I said, one laptop per child is only a provider for us. And a lot of work is done to adapt their solution to our needs. So, for example, you have a lot of translation with the application and that sort of things. And with all these models, there's a complete catalog in our website, so I can give you the website later. But the most important thing, talking about wireless here, is we only have 802.11g. And these are mostly the ones provided for the primary schools. We also give some of the blue ones for middle schools. But mostly of middle schools have these laptops. They are from a provider from Portugal. The company is called JP Couto. And this laptop is called Magallanes. We have different models there. They have 802.11n, but still single radio, so we don't take many advantage from that. And now, since last year, we are also working with tablets. OLPC is also providing tablets right now, but we are probably changing the tablet model or working with other providers. The OLPC has a lot of things specifically designed for kids, and that's very interesting. For example, here they have a graphical user interface called Dreams that the children can go there and it asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you choose, I want to be a musician, and all the application about playing with sounds and that kind of things you have there. And it's interesting, but they have some problems, so you have to deal with that. And what's next is the question, because we started with only one model and one kind of device, and now we're more or less the same that any other Wi-Fi solution that have to deal with every kind of devices. We have to decide what to do with bring your own device things and that sort of problems. So talking about the Wi-Fi specifically, our deployment, this is like the whole picture of our kind of solutions. We have the ISP access. It's the same ISP for every service. It's for optical fiber, for cellular access. In Uruguay, we have a monopoly for the fixed line access. And there's competence only in the mobile services. But our mobile services are also from the national public provider. And so the National Public ISP, it's like our partner, but we depend on their plans, for example, to switch edge services to 3G and to advance with the access. Typically in the schools, we started with just a server, a switch there, and the access points to give indoor coverage. And then we have point-to-point links to telecommunication towers, water tanks, many other buildings. You know, that was quite a good thing for us because we were a national deployment. Many of the companies, you know, the water company, as I say, the ISP, are public, so we have just to talk with them, ask them for use the infrastructure and install over there, which is not in every place easy. As you ask, for example, in many other countries, this situation can be very difficult. But education makes things a little bit easier, I think. And there we have outdoor coverage. The goal there was to cover every town and every city in the country, but not the capital city. So we are dealing with towns or cities that are the large case, as I say, 100,000 people. And there the goal was to reach, if you are in some point, you have just to walk maybe 3 blocks to reach a coverage point. So it's not like a cellular coverage goal, but with some holes there. And in the capital city, the goal was different. We use a hotspot strategy there. We cover like public squares, socials and sport clubs, and that sort of things. And then we also have deployments, for example, in housing, in urban housing developments, in rural housing developments. We also have some experience with high priority neighborhoods, you know. It's quite interesting because we have seen a larger usage at that kind of points than maybe at the center of the town. Mostly because there they have internet access at home, so they don't use our network. Well, all these links are actually 802.11 also. And with that kind of links, we also reach. So sorry, I didn't mention here. The design criteria was that the town has to have a school with at least 50 students to deploy outdoor there. And then we have also some schools with point-to-point access. And the reason there is because with this kind of service, you know, with Edge or 3G, the downlink you have, it's very, very low. So there we have point-to-point links. We also have some schools without electricity, so we have solar panels there. And some of them have satellite connections. So this is like the whole picture. And maybe if we zoom here, we have all that kind of places that I mentioned, you know, housing, urban housing, rural housing, hotspots, public squares, and that kind of stuff.
I had 2 questions while you're on there. How much is local on the servers? So a lot of the access for these remote sites, do the students go to the data on the local server, or do they still get it across the internet?
It's half and half. Most of the content is in the internet, but we also have some content in the servers.
And the second question is, for the schools with more than 50 students, what radius do you want to cover outdoor? Just the parking lot area, or how far?
Yes, because there the thing is that the school doesn't have houses around. So it's just a rural place where you have the school, and maybe the nearest house is 1 kilometer away. So it doesn't make sense there. But for example, I have a slide about servers, but the e-library is here, and the update system for laptops is here, but other things like the Khan Academy videos and that sort of things are in the internet. So here are some numbers, just to get an idea of the scale. We have, at this time, 847 DSL schools, and 920 optical fiber ones, and we are getting more and more with optical fiber and less with DSL connection. We have 506 and 5 point-to-point ones. I have not the number for the one without electricity. And we are, luckily, we will not have any more edge schools, because this is a really, really low connection for the school. We're talking about really small schools here. You know, we have schools with 10 students, 5 students, so it's really kind of weird, the scenario, if you compare with an urban school with 1,000 students. So. And we have also some satellite connections that we want to get a lower number there, but it's fine, you know, it's like less than 5. You have 50 in a total of more than 2,000, 2,500.
Sorry, what does the, so you're saying you got 46 satellite schools in 2013. So what is the 237 DSL and then 15, what's the 1520?
Sorry,
optical
what?
Fiber. Optical fiber.
Optical fiber.
Okay, so
we will have in
so a lot of DSLs moved over to the fiber.
Yes.
And you've got a significant number of point-to-point links.
Yes, the thing there is that schools, they don't have fixed line connection, and if you put this kind of connection, it's quite low for the number of students you have there. So it's better to have point-to-point links there. And
is that being done by the ISP?
No. This is all our.
There's a lot of manual work involved there. I mean,
yes.
Provisioning DSL or fiber is pretty much handed off to the telco.
Yes, in fact, we also have another solution that is not here. That it was developed with the ISP. That is to have actually not the connection here, but here at the tower. Because they have there the transport for the cellular network or that kind of thing. So they give us maybe an E1 or that kind of thing, so you can go just the last mile from the tower there. Mm-hmm. And in that case, the school server is here. So you may have one school server for many schools in that case, but small ones. No? So here are the services we have now from the ISP, and the speeds are over there. I think we should have more speed. In fact, the optical fiber service we have is less than I think it's less than the worst that is being sold for clients. I think we should have better access here. And for the satellite, it's a shared pipe there, and we also have, I think, another pipe in case of having more demand like that. So these are the numbers for the access service here. Talking about school servers, we have all kinds of brands there. They run Debian, and the main service. This has changed because now for the video conference we have routers. So some of these services now run on the routers, but at the beginning it was like this. DHCP server, firewall, content control. The e-library is also there. And this is also interesting because it was developed by ourselves. The laptop has an anti-theft system that it covers two possible cases. The one that you get the laptop and you never connect anymore to our network. So in that case, it is blocked after some time. And the other case is that someone says that it was robbed or something like that. So in that case, we put it in a blacklist that is distributed in all the school servers, and it is also blocked in that case. So it's just to prevent the black market of laptops and that sort of thing. We didn't have many trouble with that kind of thing.
So for the monitoring system that you have in place, the Zabbix, what exactly does that monitor on the laptops, like hard drive space or?
In fact, the monitoring system is for server and the access points and that things, and we monitor all kind of data there, client connected, and that was. We switched to Zabbix to have a vendor-independent monitoring system there. And the laptop update system, it's also in the server. So we distribute all the images for the laptops, and the student can download a new image with new application, that kind of thing. It's also locally. Talking about access points, we have worked with many brands, but the one that we have developed more are MikroTik and Wavion. Mostly MikroTik for indoor and point-to-point links, and Wavion for outdoor coverage. We have also worked with Alvario and Bel Air. The problem there was not exactly the equipment, but the local provider. At the beginning, we tried to have off-the-shelf solution, the provider taking care of everything, but it didn't work. As I said before, the scale, it's a problem there, so the local providers don't have many experience, and in a few months, the IT staff of Plan Ceibal have more experience than the one of any provider, so it was better to take care about the design, the site survey, and all that kind of stuff ourselves, and just use the providers for getting the access points and after installing them. So even the configuration is done by ourselves, so we are doing almost everything. We have also some cable guys and the ones that climb towers and that sort of thing, but we mostly use the providers to do that kind of thing.
I have a question for you from Twitter. Someone's asking, your optical fiber throughputs were pretty low. Do you know what's causing that slow down? I mean, normally fiber would give you way, way higher.
Yes, that's the service the ISP is providing us. So we want more.
Oh, so
he can tweet it to the provider. Okay. The provider has Twitter. It's Until the name was there.
What sort of uplinks out of the country? There must be, I guess, because it's not like you're an island. There must be significant backhaul links out of the country. For the ISP.
You mean for the internet access? Most of our access is from Argentina and Brazil. So we have to go there, and then I think the links comes to the NAP in Miami. It's like that's where all Latin America gets the internet from other parts of the world. And since last year, we started working with Cisco, Ruckus, and Juniper for a wireless LAN controller solution. And I think we are switching to that kind of solutions, at least at high density scenarios, high interference scenarios. This is our challenge now because we have many services and that kind of thing. So we really need to improve that in some scenarios. In other scenarios, it just doesn't care because you have a rural school in the middle of nowhere and just an access point will be fine there for 5-10 students. So it's quite a heterogeneous scenario all around the country.
Management quite difficult with so many systems in place, so many different vendors?
That's something we have to find out. We have not decided yet what to do with the new providers and how many to buy from everyone. And we were just running some tests last year, and now we have to take that kind of decision.
How many folks do you have supporting that entire enterprise network?
You mean the end users?
No, your team. I mean, all the point-to-points, the fiber links, the equipment, the configuration.
Well, the technical stuff, we are around, I think the number is below 100. But we also have decentralized, local companies that we can call them and they fix things and that sort of thing. So I have to do some numbers to give you the whole picture, but I don't know, maybe 200 or something like that. There are not a lot of companies in the country because, as I said, most of the population is in the capital city, so they don't have much to do if you don't take care of Ceibal. There's not many other things over there. Well, here are just some pictures. I have to ask for many more. I just put one to show you deployments. Here you have the school servers. Actually, this is not like this right now because where we have video conference, there is a rack over there. We have router and that sort of thing. I will show you right now. But this is the typical indoor access point and outdoor access points. Telecommunication towers and that sort of thing. I mean, you know that kind of stuff. So this is another interesting thing for the outdoor. We have a project. It was there were some students that for their degree they developed a tool for drive test measurements from Wi-Fi network, and they actually use a radio that is the same one from the old PC laptop, just to take care about it, to have the same kind of measurements that the laptop has. And we have done a lot of testing of that kind of thing. We measure the coverage in every place that we develop the solution. We compare the heights, putting the equipment of different heights and that sort of things. Here you have Wavian at 15 meter high, Wavian at 30 meter high. It's the same place in both cases. So we have a lot of information that is used to optimize, because after the first deployment, what we have done are more deployments because we also have now kindergartens and many community places and that sort of things. But we are also optimizing what we have already deployed. So it's a never-end work, luckily. But here's the solution for the video conference, for the English teaching that I mentioned. There was Cisco who won the project. You have a centralized solution here. And at each school and at each teaching point, you have a router there. It's an 891. And the codec is the C20. And they have a large TV there. And as you saw in the video, they interact with the teacher just in the other side of the TV. So this changes the architecture in the school because you have now the router, so you have to put aside the school server, and now some of service run here. You have the HTTP and firewall and that kind of stuff here. And we are also trying to have high availability because as more and more teachers use our infrastructure, you can have failures and you have to be really resilient in your network. So we have, for example, I don't know, but maybe 2 switches when you have many access points, and in other cases, like the one for 3G connections, we are maybe thinking about having also a point-to-point connection in case of failure of the one from 3G. I didn't mention this kind of server. The brand there is FitPC. It's a small server in that case. For the smaller schools, we have a small service. Sorry. And well, just to finish, I have a mention for the area where I am right now, which is research, development, and innovation. And it is part of the technical area that is shared with the design, deployment, and optimization guys. I was before there. And we also have a large area of network management and support. We have also other interesting things like a call center. This is the first, it's like the help desk for the students. It was interesting there because I think it's one of the first call centers for kids. You know, the kids call there, and it was quite an interesting thing. And you have to train the people to, you know, call with kids on the other side. And our projects right now, we are working with quality of experience. There is a collaboration there with a research institute in Finland. It's called VTT. The idea there is to have like a black box that can say you where you have that kind of access point, and you have to give that kind of service. Well, the user will get that kind of experience. We are also doing a trial in the first, probably the Q2 this year, about the TV white space solution. It's just because to try it. It's not because we are really interested in that kind of thing, but we are open to innovate in every kind of technological advance. So we have called with our FCC, which is the local regulator, to do that. And it's interesting. I think it will be the first one in Latin America, the first trial of TV white space in Latin America. We start with massive deployment of wireless LAN controller solution, as I said, and we will continue with performance measurements and some more usage analysis just to know where do we actually have to improve our infrastructure, and just not doing it because you have to do it, and you know, put the money where it is really needed. And the goal for the research and development stuff is to recommend design criteria. There will be guys in design and deployment that will take the decisions. So I think this is actually my last slide, and this is the title I select last night for the presentation, because this is the message I want to leave, which are our needs. As a Wi-Fi deployment project, we have from basic to complex Wi-Fi solution, as you have seen, all kinds of scenarios, low, high density, low, high interference. And we are open to any other innovative technology for education. For example, we have just bought 3D printers just to give it to some middle schools and try cool things there. And we really want to try every kind of technology advance that appears for education. And I think the opportunities for the providers, for any other people who develop things for that kind of things, is you have the opportunity to collaborate with us, testing the new technology at a large scale. We have the project running since the last few years, so the people is used to new advances. I think the collaboration is for a good cause. Education is always important in the human development. And I think the providers there can generate success cases, and Uruguay it's really an interesting place to get known in the region, you know, to enter to larger markets like Argentina and Brazil. And it's like a strategic point. That's why Montevideo, it's an important port in the south. So I have, that's the message. So thank you very much. Here are the social media links for Plan Ceibal. I'm open to questions.
Usually in educational technology initiatives, they want to have some form of measurement to say, we spent all this money, we did all this stuff, what's the end result? Do you have any statistics on changes in either behavior or test results for the children who've had laptops versus what you had before you had laptops?
Yeah, as I said, most of the measurements, for example, the international measurements about the education and that kind of things, maybe you have heard about the PISA test. It's like a measurement for, there are not, we haven't seen impact there. But the impact for the last years is more about a social impact. In fact, we have a complete area dedicated to monitoring and analysis of social impact and that kind of stuff. And they perform, interviews with people, and they collect a lot of information every year just to know the penetration, if the service was good or not, and that kind of stuff.
So you made people feel really good.
Yes, I think in many places, yes. Because it was not only the impact for children, but also for the families. In many places, their parents get in touch with a computer and started using it for working purposes. For example, in the farms, you have some example of people that works in the farms and started to look at information in the internet that is useful for the production and that kind of stuff.
I think a lot of these programs try to see, like what Keith's saying, they try to see, well, what's the improvement in test results? And you can't just measure it that way. You can't measure a lot of the outcomes, and you probably need to, but how can you measure someone's creative advancement? Or you're not going to just see better results on standardized tests as a positive outcome.
I think that's the question with education overall. How do you measure the result of something that's taught in the classroom, and whether it's in this format or...
Yeah, but I think a lot of these programs only try to measure.
Yeah.
Standards, teach to the test and all of that, which just doesn't work.
Well, two things about that. One, for example, you have a professor from India, which is called Sugata Mitra. You can search on Google. He has an interesting experience. He put a computer next to a very, very poor neighborhood, and the kids just started using it, and they haven't seen any computer before. It's very interesting. And he says, for example, that to measure an education impact, you have to wait at least 10 years. So, and I think it's quite a good number. That's one part, and the other is the international measurements about education, I think, are based on the traditional education. So that's kind of weird also, because if the education is changing, you have to also change the test. So the typical schools about the ring hanging and that sort of stuff. I don't know if you have seen the videos from Ken Robinson. They are very interesting videos. He's from the UK. He's specialized in education. They are that kind of video with facility graphics and that kind of stuff. It's very cool. And he says like the education we have right now is from the last century, from the Industrial Revolution, and people hear the ring hanging and you have to go out and that kind of stuff. And I think the measurements are also aligned with that. So,
another question, you'd mentioned in the video that the children get to keep the laptop?
Yes.
So they keep the same one, or do the elementary schools get the OLPCs, and then as they move higher, they get a different one?
As they move higher, they just give the older one and get the new one. But in fact, the laptop, it's for them. It's in the kindergarten of that kind of stuff. No, the tablets or laptops are at the school, but for most of the students, it's for them.
So is this, a lot of these programs are a once-off thing, and maybe they don't even think about it or take into account laptop battery life, which is obviously finite. Is this something is there continual support from the government? Because it can't just be a 3-year thing. It's got to sort of from then on in, you're kind of
Yes,
committed?
we have a lot of how do you say it's subventions, or I don't know what's the word in English. You give some money for the people just to fix the laptop, but if you have an accident, maybe we can pay for fixing it. But if you take the laptops and crash it to the wall, you have to pay for that, and you have different situation there. But the thing about battery life and that kind of stuff, it's a real challenge, and also the electronic garbage. So we are working in that kind of stuff.
Maybe a question that kind of ties in with that I have, and I saw somebody on Twitter asking it. How is the project funded?
It's all governmental funds.
All government.
Yes.
Okay. How can we help? Or is there any help needed from?
Well, you can just send me an email, and we can talk about what we want to do and that kind of. It was, I didn't mention, but at the beginning there was a large network of volunteers that help a lot the project. And there are also projects, for example, from the university that go to schools and explain them what is DSL and that kind of things that I think help a lot the people, the students, the community to appropriate the technology.